Internet gets worse and worse every day. He had 4 terabytes of child abuse material on his computer, and a lot of it was with his own children. Like, when people find out what I do, they're like, well, I don't even want to talk to you because you're probably going to get me to do things. Are you hacking me right now?
Cyber heroes and cyber fans, welcome to another episode. My name is Mr. Fingers. If it is your first time tuning in, hey, don't forget to click and like for more. So today we actually have a phenomenal guest who I consider this person also to be a mentor because of what he does in the game and the things that he's been doing in the game. Today's guest is somebody whose name is instantly changing the temperature of the room. He is the CEO and founder of Social Engineer, which is one of the world's most influential voices in human behavior, security psychology, and also social engineering. For nearly 20 years, he has studied one question: why do humans say yes? He's built the world's first social engineering framework and wrote 5 industry defining books that are now used in universities, corporations, and also law enforcement agencies worldwide. But he isn't just a husband, a father, an author, a social engineer, a researcher. He's a builder, a teacher, and also a disruptor. He founded the Innocent Lives Foundation, which is a non-profit that helps unmask online child predators and also hands their identity to the law enforcement to be able to work with the law enforcement so they can be able to save countless lives. He's also created the world's first social engineering Capture the Flag, which teaches social engineering at University of Arizona and has also lectured everywhere from global conferences to also the Pentagon. He truly believes that social engineering is not just about human hacking. It's about understanding them. It's about protecting people. It's also about leaving them better off for when you have met them. Ladies and gentlemen, cyber heroes and cyber fans, please help me welcome Chris. Chris, welcome to the show, man.
I don't know who that guy is, but you made him sound really cool. Like, that was quite an intro. Thank you very much.
No, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much again for coming to the show. And you're just such a phenomenal human being, and I think most people would like to know, even just starting off, man, what really inspired you to get into social engineering?
Boy, that's an interesting story. So we go way back in the day. I was working for a company as a pen tester, network pen tester, and an exploit writer, and we were teaching how to do both of those things. My brain just doesn't work for code. So I was constantly struggling to remember simple Python commands and things like that. And I was at the same time reading these books about Kevin Mitnick, Frank Abagnale, Victor Lustwig, all these like famous con men and social engineers through history. And I thought, man, when we do these pen tests, I wonder if we can use some of these skills. Like, humans are still the same. You looked at Victor Lustwig, like he was back in the early 1900s, and then Kevin Mitnick, and you're like, it's the same thing. It's just different times. So I asked this company once, like, hey, can we try sending emails? Can we try a phone call? At the time, there wasn't even words like vishing. There wasn't any of that. Didn't even exist. So they were like, yeah, sure, try it. So I tried it, and it worked. I would just call, literally say, hey, this is Paul from IT. We have a problem with your computer. I need your password. And they'd give it to me. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So I tell the CEO, hey, like, this worked. Here's what happened. And we hacked your whole company. And this one guy said to me, okay, well, Chris, it worked. Now, how do I fix it? And I said, I got no clue, man. I have no clue. I'm just doing the thing. And he said to me, this is the thing that changed everything for me. He said, if I went to my auto mechanic and I said, what's this noise? And he goes, it's your brakes. And I went, fix it. And he said, I don't know how. I'd never use that auto mechanic again. And I'm like, that is a really good analogy. So that kind of started a fire in me, and I started reading. I mean, if you're on video, you could see all these books behind me. I started reading all these books on psychology, neuroscience, decision making, influence, persuasion, nonverbals, just anything I could. And I started writing like notes in the columns. And let's use an example like Cialdini's book on influence. And I would write some notes on like authority. And I would say, oh, I'm going to try this in a phishing email. And then I would try it knowing that I was using authority and it would work. And I can go back to the company and say, hey, this worked because I made believe I was the CEO. And this is what it means. And that was the framework. I started writing that. It took me about 10 or 11 months. And then I just decided I'm going to put this online. Just put this online. I think it's pretty cool. It's a neat, interesting thing. And I put it online, and overnight it kind of blew up. And in 3 months, this was like 2008, 9. 3 months later, Kevin Mitnick's publisher called me and she asked me to write a book on that framework. And I was like, no way. Like, there's no way I'm writing a book. Like, this is not me. But she convinced me to do it. That was my very first book that came out in 2010. And when that came out, everybody just started calling and asking for consultation and speeches. And I hate to say it, I wish I could tell you I was some kind of genius, but that's what started this whole thing. It was just a series of mistakes that kind of landed in the right place. And I started doing that full time and started this company in 2010 on the back of that first book. And yeah, that's kind of the histories from there.
Amazing story, man. And how were you feeling during that time when that all that was happening? Because I know the energy and just the overwhelming for everybody wants to interview you, everybody wants to talk to you, everyone, all these things. How were you feeling during that time?
It was really surreal because I was like I was a nobody in industry. I worked for someone else and was very low key, and no one even knew who I was, and I wasn't searching to be famous or anything or create anything new. So it was kind of a little surreal at first, and then when I realized like this is a whole thing, and I came home and I told my wife I want to start a company that does just this. And she said, well, okay, how many people do it and how much do they make? And I'm like, well, nobody does it on Earth. So I can't tell you anything. And we had to take
Survival
this
mode.
risk. Yeah, it was really crazy because she then supported me and we decided to start this. And it was, I don't even know how I can describe the feeling because, now I get this company comes to me and they say, we want you to do our phishing program. And they have 280,000 employees. I mean, this is not a small company. And they're like, we've been doing phishing for years and it's not really working. We need you to figure out why. So I'm using all these psychological principles to figure out why are they not influenced? Why are they not getting education? And we figured out a program that actually in 3 years reduced malware by 73% on their network. And I patented that process, and that became my third book on phishing, phishing dark waters. And so I'm telling you this because it was like this weird, surreal time in my life where we were creating very new things that had never been done and figuring out how and why they worked. And it was creating an industry. Like there was nothing there. Social engineering wasn't an industry. So we were creating a whole industry that now is like thousands of people, around the globe doing this. It's kind of a really weird feeling.
What do you think you'll be doing? Have you ever thought about that?
That's a funny question. So in my careers, throughout my life, I've done so many things. I mean, at one point I was a window cleaner, I was a mason, I was a chef for a few years. I was in sales for multiple things. I was a negotiator. I really enjoyed that job, so I might be doing that. I was a teacher. There was just so many things that I've done I tried my hands at. But what would happen is either I would get bored and move on, or I would feel that I hit the top of my ability. I was a sales guy for insurance, and I hit the global top 1% for this company of all salespeople. And then I was like, I'm bored. Like I did it. Now I don't want to. What else how else can I challenge myself? So I started to, when I got bored, I started to like do bad at the job. So I left. This is the first thing that I've done that has constantly challenged me and constantly has made me try harder and do better and learn more every day. So I don't know. I'd have to find something that's like that because everything else I've kind of just moved on.
Can I answer you on that one?
Yeah,
So,
please.
so the reason why, Chris, you were changing jobs, like, because I'm also like that. I've also started off. I worked in radio as a technical producer, and then I worked as a presenter. Then I jumped on, worked in marketing. I became a marketing specialist. Then I became a marketing manager. Then I worked in cybersecurity. Now, obviously, then I worked as a cybersecurity specialist. Worked as a cybersecurity manager. Left that position. I was like, I'm bored now. I want to do social engineering. Started doing social engineering because the reason why I noticed that with this, what you're doing, what you're talking about as well, is because you're creative. So when you, as a creative, you get bored very easily doing the same thing over and over. You don't like the same routine. Your brain doesn't function on the same
That's
routine.
100% right.
So I've noticed as well. I also get bored very easily within the space of a year if I'm doing the same thing over and over. I'm like, no, it can't be.
But this is not boring, is it? Like this is like
No,
this job is exciting all the time.
especially where I live in South Africa, right?
Hmm.
In Africa, they don't do this. So I think I was telling somebody today in the event that I went to that I want to be the first and the best in Africa,
Hmm.
and that's where I'm currently leaning onto at this current moment because it's not done and nobody knows about it. When you tell them, "Hey, I do social
Wow.
engineering," everybody's like, "What is that?"
So
I'm
how's
like,
it? I mean, I hate to turn it on you and ask you questions, but how is
yeah.
it working? Like, are you getting clients? Are people starting to get on the idea that you need to do this?
So at this current moment, clients are still trying to adopt to it
Hmm.
because when I explain to them how it works, and then only then they were like, okay, let's try it. Let's see how it works. I've done it a couple of times to a couple of companies, and they were like, okay, can we do more of these? Because usually we have
Uh-huh.
pen testers doing walk-ins and stuff. And I was like, yeah, your pen testers are not doing that job that I do. Mine's quite
Yeah.
different.
Flew to Jamaica and I was breaking into three banks in Jamaica, and it's like, I'm in a place where I'm predominantly not the right skin color. Their security is sawed off shotguns, and I'm gonna break into these three banks and hopefully not get shot or arrested. And she's like, okay, well, have fun, like it's like if without her support, man, I wouldn't be doing any of this, because there's some crazy stories throughout the years. That's for sure.
100%. And some of your stories also in obviously some of the videos and also in your podcast as well. But Chris, the funniest thing is that you spent years studying how or what makes humans say yes. But I want to understand from you what's that one thing or what is the one trigger that works across all cultures?
Boy, that's a great question. So I found that every culture is a little bit different, but one of the things that I've noticed across culture is authority. If you figure out what the authority figure is, authority seems to work across every culture. And in my business, since you follow the work, you know this, we try to never use fear based tactics. So when I say authority, I don't mean coming in like, hey, you're fired if you don't do this. But like I did some social engineering in Japan. And what I found is that the way that you bow, the deeper you go, that means the lower you are on the scale. So if you come in and you just do a slight bow, you're telling everyone, I'm high, I'm up here. And then people automatically start to I would just come in, do a small bow and say, I need to get in this room. And people would just unlock the door and let me in. Right. It was just bam,
Oh,
done. Right. When I went to Jamaica, I figured out that if because I definitely am not from Jamaica, I had to be an American consultant, right? And as long as I had a clipboard, I got anywhere. It was anywhere. I mean, a clipboard, right? So I found that authority works. We broke into a healthcare facility here in America, and we had found a newspaper article a couple of weeks before about this insect infestation that was happening all over the city. These little spiders. They were non-poisonous, but they were somehow came out and they were just infesting the whole city. So we made ourselves pest control people. And we were coming to these buildings from the city to come and spray for these spiders. That was a sense of authority. Like, you can't question us. We're from the city. We're here to do this job. And it worked. So, across the board, I would say authority seems to work in every culture as long as you know what the authority is, because it's not the same in every place that you go.
actually, you actually had me thinking right now, especially with the Jamaica one.
Uh, yeah, that was scary. That might have been one of my scariest jobs, for sure.
Because it makes me think that sometimes these people don't question. They were like, Oh, we trust you. You can come in.
Yeah, especially if you have the right, you don't seem nervous, if you're confident about your job, if you act the way that the pretext says you should act, then people tend to just go along with it and believe it.
And that's very true. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about social engineering?
Boy, I tell you, when people hear you're a social engineer, they think that you just manipulate people every day, all day, no matter what. Like when people find out what I do, they're like, "Oh, I don't even want to talk to you because you're probably going to get me to do things. Are you hacking me right now?" And I'm like, "It's not. This is not Jedi mind tricks, right? This is not some kind of voodoo magic. It's not. It's and plus, it's a really bad look for anyone, for someone who does this, to be manipulating and moving their friends and their family and their customers nonstop when you're just having a conversation. I tell them, like, that would be really crappy of me to be doing this all the time. But I think that's the biggest misconception is when people find out you do this for a living, they think that you're just always getting people to do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's very true. And you also, inspired me to be able to read humans by studying human behavior, right? And
Yeah.
one of the things I used to do, which I still do even now, is sometimes I sit in a coffee shop, I analyze people around me, and I start doing profiling on them,
Yeah.
right? And it gets better with time. Obviously, the more you do it, the better it gets. But if somebody wanted to do or read people, what do you think is the first skill that they should be practicing daily?
So actually, that's a really great question, by the way. So first of all, for me, what I always tell students is that you have to know about yourself before you can meet other people. So you need to understand, what is your communication profile and what nonverbals am I putting off? Right. So if I'm like, I'm a very direct person. So sometimes I can come off really aggressive. So I need to understand that. Right. So if I understand, ooh, like, you know, nonverbals like this, my hand down and pointing, this is very aggressive. If I understand it about myself, then when I see that in other people, I'll be able to interpret it. Understanding yourself and what you're displaying and how you're, even nonverbals like your tone, your volume, your pitch, what we call RSVP, rhythm, speed, volume, pitch, right? Those things are important to understand about yourself, because the more you understand yourself, the easier it is to read other people. So I always tell people, start first here and then go out.
That's actually great advice. Thank you for that. And there's something which you're really passionate about, and I absolutely love this. And thank you also for this, which you've actually founded a Innocent Lives Foundation, which is a foundation that you've created, and you've seen the worst of humanity, and you've seen the worst of the worst. How do you mentally stay strong and sane?
Hmm.
Because I mean, you've got kids, and this also, as a father, I'm sure you've seen the worst of the worst, and you want to protect your kids, and you want to help protecting other kids. But how are you able to stay strong? And what's the worst case that you've seen before?
I know not everyone can do this work, right? And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Some of us just have the ability to do it and to be able to view it in a different way. So for me, it's focus more on the result. The fact that when we're successful, if we put away a predator, we just had a case in Argentina that we helped the law enforcement stop this guy. And when he had 4 terabytes of child abuse material on his computer, and a lot of it was with his own children.
Whoa.
So you think of that, 4 terabytes. This guy had been collecting child abuse material for years. That I look at that and I say, we stopped a person who had so much material that he was probably spreading that around the world and creating his own by abusing his own children. Now he's going to be in prison for a really long time. So his kids are safe. Other kids are safe. So I focus, even though that's a really, really terrible case, I focus on the end result, that he no longer can hurt children and his children are now safe. And that motivates me to say, I know it's crappy. I know it's hard. I know it's terrible, but wow, we did that. Our team did that, and we put that guy away, and he can't do anything to kids anymore. So I focus on that result, and that helps me kind of deal with the garbage that's behind it.
What advice would you give to parents as well about this?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I'd give them 2 things. First of all, don't be afraid to have a conversation with your kids, regardless of their age. Now, age appropriate conversation. They need to understand that people are on the internet that will try to get them to do things. that will ruin their life. And if you don't know how to have that conversation, you can go to innocentliesfoundation.org, and we have videos and other things on there. We even have a couple books that were produced by volunteers of ours that will help you talk to your kids about this stuff. And second, don't be afraid to monitor your kids' online devices. Now, of course, age appropriate. As my kids got older, as they entered teen years, we know they needed privacy, so we didn't monitor everything. But when they're young, you think about this. I don't know what age in Africa can kids start driving?
It's 16 when they get their learners, and then 18 when they get their license.
Okay, so imagine this: 16-year-old, your daughter, 16 years old. You just hand her the keys to your car and say, "Have fun. Go learn how to drive." You're not going to do that, are you? You're going to take her out on the road. You're going to teach her how to drive in a parking lot. It's not going to be, "Hey, here's the keys. Go have fun." But yet, we take this device that is the entry gate to the world, and we hand it to 6, 7-year-olds, and we say, "Just be safe." We would not do that with the keys to a car. So we need to monitor our children when they're on these devices. We need to understand, where are they going? What are they doing? Who are they chatting with? We wouldn't just say, I know when my kids were little, they wouldn't, if they came home and said, "Oh, I want to go over to my friend's house." Who's your friend? Who's their parents? What's their name? Can I meet them? I don't just let my kids go over someone's house without meeting them. But yet they're in chat rooms talking to people that we have no clue who they are. So monitor your kids. It might feel bad, and they might say, "Well, none of my friends' parents do that." That's what my kids would say to me, and I'm like, "I'm sorry that your friends' parents don't do that, but I need to keep you safe. That's my job. That's the role I play, and I would be a terrible dad if I didn't monitor what was going on to make sure that you stay safe." It's not going to make you the most popular parent on earth, but you got to do it, because the internet gets worse and worse every day.
And I mean, your kids will thank you in the future as well, because you really
And they
saved them
have.
from something. You see?
Yep, they have. Now both my kids are older. They're out of the house. One of them's married, and they tell me, like, they understand how to recognize danger now because of the way that my wife and I raised them. So they're critical thinkers. They're able to look at the situation and go, "Ooh, that's not going to be safe," because of the way that we taught them to view things.
Yeah. And I want to talk about your book, the from social engineering, the arts of human hacking. You talk more about pretexting, and as pretexting is the backbone of social engineering. But I want to understand from you, what's the difference between good pretexting and also bad pretexting?
Mm. That's a good question, too. You have a lot of good questions. So let's define it for people who are listening. So pretexting is basically the role or the act you're going to put on to convince somebody of who you are. Now, sounds like it could be a manipulation, but let's think of it even in the case of a parent. Let's talk about parents for a second. Let's say your kid breaks the house rules. You can choose two different pretexts. You could choose the pretext of angry dad who wants to punish, or concerned dad that is worried about why the rule was broken. Both of those are personas you're going to put on. Now, I'm not saying you're faking it, but you have to choose that persona. So what makes a good pretext is if it's believable, if you stick to it, if everything that you are pretexting matches. So let's say concerned dad, then that means my vocal tone, my body language, my facial expressions, all of that has to match that concern. I can't be, "I'm really concerned about you. I'm really concerned that you were hurt." That doesn't sound right. It doesn't, my face doesn't match. Nothing sounds like I was concerned. It sounds like I'm angry. So everything has to match. Then lastly, if you're doing this for social engineering, and I truly believe this as a professional SE, the skill and quality I look for the most is empathy. Because I have to realize, and my team has to realize, that we are hacking other humans. And when they find out that this was a test authorized by their company, they're going to feel a little bit of guilt, shame, maybe a little fear. So if I use things like "you're going to get fired," or flirtation, or sexual pretext, or I use something that is embarrassing to them, when they find out it's a test, they're going to feel intense shame. And now they don't want to learn. Even though the bad guys will do that, a good pretext is going to take into consideration that I want this person to be safer. So winning is fun, but it's more important that I leave that person in a state that they want to learn and they feel better for having met me. So that way they are learning, as opposed to just making my ego feel good.
Yeah, that's actually such a great breakdown, Chris. Thank you so much. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Thank you for that one. And there's something that you teach about elicitation. To be honest with you, the first time I read your book, I was like, "What the heck is this?" And I had to, I had to Google it, and I started reading more books about human behavior, and I was like, "Oh, okay, it means that." I think for people who don't understand what elicitation means and how you're able to use it in social engineering, do you mind breaking it down as well?
Sure. So I love the topic of elicitation. Actually, in my fifth book, I wrote a whole chapter on it and breaking it down with the science behind it because good elicitation, let's say I'm eliciting someone else and you're watching. To you, it should appear like a conversation. That's it. I define elicitation as getting information without directly asking for it. So let's say I want to get your date of birth, right? I want to know when you were born. And you're in a store and I walk in and I see you're my target and I walk up to you and I can go, hey, when were you born? You're gonna be like, what? That's a weird question from a complete stranger. So I might start off by saying, hey, man, I need some help. Like, I'm terrible at buying birthday gifts for my brother, and his birthday's coming up next week. You look about the same age. Like, what's the best thing that one of your friends or your family bought for you on your last birthday? Right. And you say something like, oh, man, my brother, he took me out on the fishing trip on this boat. It was one of the best trips I ever had. Oh, fishing trip. Okay, well, that's obviously not a winter baby. You must be a summer baby, right? Because fishing in the winter would be horrible. Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm born in the summer. I was like, oh, my brother was born in June. How about you? Oh, yeah, it was August. Oh, man, my sister was born in August on the 13th. You say, no, no, I was born on the 21st. Oh, that's cool, man. Well, my brother, he's just turning like 27, so I don't even know what to buy him. Like, do you think that's a good gift for a 27-year-old? And most likely you're going to answer with like, well, I mean, I'm 30, but that was a real good trip for me. Now, guess what I got? I just got and I got 30. I know now that that was your last year birthday. I can do the math and figure out I have your date of birth and I never asked for it. That is perfect elicitation, right? You're getting information without directly asking for it by using a line of questioning and conversation that doesn't seem like I'm actually digging for any information.
Beautiful breakdown. What legacy do you want to leave behind, and what do you want to be remembered for?
So, all this stuff is really cool and creating an industry and all that, but um, my main mission in life is teaching people and helping people. And I want my kids to be able to look back and say, my dad did that. ILF is my passion project, but it's also something really important to me. And I want people that know me to realize like that, even though I might, have the really cool job of breaking in places and hacking things and stuff like that, that I did it with the goal of always trying to help other people and to leave people feeling better for having met me. So I think if I can do that, you know, um, it's a little bit emotional for me, but just 2 days ago, my mentor, Dr. Paul Ekman, he passed away. He was
Sorry, man.
91. Yeah, thank you. But when I think about my time with him, the years that I had to spend with him, one thing always resonated with me, and it was how kind he was, how comfortable he was at giving of himself and his knowledge and his passion. And I'm like, if I pass away and someone can sit there and say that about me, boy, I'd be happy, right? Because I don't think about all the stuff that he might have done that might have been wrong, the research that he got wrong, or the time that he messed up in his life or marriage or whatever. I think about the way that he treated me and how compassionate he was, and that's a great legacy to leave behind. Really is.
Thank you so much, Chris. Chris, thank you for coming to the podcast. And I hope I didn't grill you too much with my questions because my
No,
questions are always grilling.
no, I love it. You have great questions, actually. Some I've never been asked before, so those are really, really good.
Just to give you a background again, as you know, I told you I used to be in radio, so that's the reason why some questions just come in my head.
Huh? You can tell. You can tell you've been in radio. You're really good at this.
All right, man. Appreciate it, man.